I'm Phoebe and I am the mum of Corey. We started with Montessori Minds back in October 2024. I was currently pregnant with my second and we were looking to move Corey from care in Melbourne because we'd moved to Geelong. And Montessori Minds made that a really beautiful, seamless process. He's since gone up into kinder here and is in 4-year-old kinder up in the Twinem class, and he just absolutely loves it. And he enjoys coming every single day, and we're really excited to have our second, Piper. She's about to start here as well. And Amira's been looking forward to having her start since I think she was like 2 weeks old. So they're very much loved and taken care of, and that's without even Piper starting. So yeah, we feel the love at Montessori Minds. Well, living locally, we go to Bunnings a lot, so there's physically we saw it. But my mum actually comes from an education background as well, so I wanted to make sure that education was important. And I think when you start early and you set the foundations for kids, then you're going to create lifelong learners. So that was really important to me. So obviously, I had physically seen Montessori Minds as it was being built, but then research as well, and obviously looking at what was available within our area, and Montessori Minds is obviously where we landed, feeling that was going to be a really good fit for Corey and have the same principles that we have as well. I think walking into the environment and you can see that the kids were really happy here, and I think that's the best sign as a parent, when obviously kids cry and all of that, but you can tell when they're happy and they're comfortable in a place. So seeing that, and I think also when Corey came into the place and he did his little 2-hour trial and he was really comfortable, that for me made me feel secure that it was the right choice and he was going to be in the right environment for him. So I think, you go with your gut and what feels right, and then seeing the kids and how happy they were, that was probably the biggest thing for us. But just seeing how comfortable Corey was as well, with that kind of cemented the decision. Obviously it's a new building, so that first off, but you can tell that it's maintained. I think we did tour a bunch of different childcare centres, and some you just could tell that they weren't loved, the physical elements of it. I think if you can't take care of the building, then what does that say about taking care of kids? So knowing that they're going to go into a really healthy, clean environment where kids come home with everything. Let's be honest, you go through all of the flus and the hand, mouth and foot and all of that, but when everyone is trying to create that clean environment to prevent that, and obviously the contamination and passing that on to other kids. And you can tell Montessori Minds is the cleanliness is very important. Even the outdoor spaces are incredibly well maintained. And I think, obviously the industry got rocked last year. We definitely felt a personal connection. One of my best friends, her son was at one of the childcare centres. So that was really huge. And I think, when you have that close proximity to that, for every parent, it's first and foremost, I want my child to be safe. But to see how immediate the changes were implemented and how seriously it was taken was so reassuring. And I'm walking in now, you can even see this posters up no photography of children, and even that last year at the end of year concert that we weren't allowed to film it. And I think that setting those standards and enforcing them at the discomfort of some individuals, but at the benefit of our children, is you want people to be upholding those standards for you and for your kids. And so Montessori Minds does that incredibly well. It's really interesting. When we first had Corey, I was really against plastic toys. I really wanted wooden toys. We've since had a lot of plastic toys given to us, and they break really easily. And I think, it ends up in landfill because they're not made to last. The choice to have wooden toys alone, I think we're learning more and more about microplastics and how that's been absorbed. So just having wooden toys, which fits in with nature and is more tactile and just one with nature, is really, really hugely important. To have that for kids, I think, is massive. Let's not dip them in all the chemicals that plastics have. They're going to get lifelong exposure. If we can minimize it at every point, I think that that's an amazing thing. So like that in of itself,
And,
I mean, brilliant. But also, I mean, like I said, my mama is from an education background. She specifically teaches the primary years program, which really breaks down education. And I went through it myself as a teenager, doing a middle years program and IB. So, which is all like invoking lifelong learners, explore your own curiosity, take that, build those connections. And I think, you know, setting that foundation is so important. And that's what Montessori Minds does really well. Like Corey comes home and he tells me like, oh, I'm learning this and I'm learning that. And I know all the continents of the world. And I don't think I knew that when I was in kinder. I think I learned that at school. He comfortably knows his alphabet and how to count to 100, and you can see those skills being reinforced. And like he loves numbers, and I think that journey of learning how to count to 100 is from reading one of his favorite books, but it's been supported through the educational program here. And I think that that's really important, that they're supported in their learning journey, and if something sparks for them, that is supported and followed through, and that curiosity is not, I think so often it's squelched for it to fit a curriculum idea and concept of this is what we're learning here, but actually just to let them go on that exploratory journey, because that's so authentic, and also learning through play. Like that is everything is about play at this age. And I think setting up those systems and the rooms to be engaging for that is huge. Absolutely. I think, I mean, the more we can engage with nature and appreciate it at a young age, the more likely we are to care about it when we're older. And I think, you know, there's all this research that's come out now about, I think in Finland it is, that they've replaced all the plastic playgrounds with dirt, and how having that exposure to microbes is increasing children's health. So having nature, and I think the more and more science that comes out from it is that nature is so important to not only their health and well-being, physically, but mentally, but also just nurturing it. I think, you know, if we can nurture it now, and a fascination and appreciation, and that we have a worm farm at home as well. So, you know, what we see here in Montessori Minds is also replicated at home, and like then we use our, I call it the worm juice or the worm tea, to water our strawberries. And so that's become something that's very like embedded. And I think, you know, Montessori Minds just reaffirms that process and what we're doing at home. So to have those correlations between what's happening at home and what's happening at kinder is very, it just strengthens the understanding and the appreciation of it. Yeah. Well, I grew up internationally as well, so I went to an international school for much of my education and lived overseas for a lot of it as well. So I know the benefits myself in having that and appreciating different cultures and being immersed in them, and that so to have that celebration within Australia and know that we actually are a melting pot of cultures, and to appreciate that from the get-go. I mean, one of the best festivals is Holi with the colours. Like, how do you not want to get around that? And it's interesting, like obviously our school calendar, our year calendar is built around Christian holidays like Christmas and Easter and all of that. But I think that's one religion that's determining everything, but there's so much more to celebrate. And it's nice to be able to take little bits and pieces from different cultures, food and just colors and stories, because stories are such a big part of culture, and to be able to share that like through Diversity Week and having parents come in as well and share what they've done and their cultures and their background. I think that makes people feel safe and feel seen, that there's no one size fits all, and that all are welcome. And that diversity is obviously within the kids, but also within the educators themselves. So to have that exposure and know that we live in a multicultural world, and there's no one size fits all and one way to do something, that there's multiple approaches and all of them can be beautiful. Yes. I mean, obviously the app is kind of the first part of communication. So you can constantly see what's happening in the day and what their journey has been through that day. Even having the food menu for the week is really lovely as well, and knowing what they're eating. And it's always very diverse. Jessie cooks very diverse meals, which is fabulous. But to be able to be updated on what's happening. So if there's any special events, then you can go back to it and reflect on it and read through it at your own time and pace. I think, sometimes newsletters and pieces of paper get lost. So having a one-stop shop for it is huge. So that's one aspect as well. But the educators themselves have always been, they always make themselves available for a check-in and to just see where they're at in the learning journey as well, like on a day-to-day basis of how Corey's been emotionally. I mean, and I think that that's a big thing as well, that we can check in emotionally. The education is one aspect, but the emotional well-being is huge. So just stepping in and being like, having the time, and they willingly give the time to convey that information is really reassuring. And obviously there are like parent-teacher kind of little interviews just to check in and see how they're doing as well, which I kind of didn't know was a thing in kinder, but I also really appreciate that that's available to obviously talk about their education and their learning journey and just how they're doing as a person. Yeah. I think education has very much become a one-size-fits-all, and kids are forced into it. I think there's a really beautiful image that comes to mind when talking about education, and it's of testing, and it's of all these animals, and it's like to climb this tree, and you have an elephant, you have a monkey, you have like a crocodile, you have a bird. And so I think, which is to say that everyone moves at their own pace, they have their own capabilities. So to come into a space that respects that of your child and doesn't set expectations of, if you're not here, then you're failing. And I think we've created that culturally as a society. So to not have that embedded in them at a young age and just being nurtured, I think that Montessori Minds does that incredibly well. So if that's important for you guys as parents, then I definitely think coming into the space, having that experience, try it. Obviously, one size doesn't fit all, so finding what works for you as a family and your child is so incredibly important. But I do think being open to the Montessori framework, I think, is going to be incredibly beneficial for a lot of parents, and they're going to see that through their child as well.